What is up, everybody? As mentioned in the last video, I put a new tube in this tire, got all my things ready to go out for a ride, came back to it to take it upstairs and head out the door, and it was flat. So gonna do a little exploration on what happened and see if there's something sharp in there. It's weird because, as I mentioned, the tube was probably 5-6 years old that was in there before. Never had an issue with getting a flat. It was just that the valve was a little bent and I went to straighten it and it broke off. That was on New Year's Eve. So I didn't do a thorough inspection of this one because I didn't think I had that kind of problem like you normally do. If you get a flat on the road, you know, you want to check the rim strip and check for anything sharp. So let's get this past the brakes. But I was also thinking about the comment that I mentioned at the end of the last video as well about how do I find motivation to ride. And so I was kind of thinking about that, like motivation to ride. Well, I usually just want to ride my bike a lot. But yeah, there are times when it's just like I just want to exercise or I just want to be outside or I don't know. So what is that? I was just kind of thinking of what does that mean? And then this morning I was watching a video by Andy who runs STS Bikes. I'll link their channel below, steel bikes made in Michigan. But he was talking about more of like the why he rides. He was talking a lot, he doesn't like to ride in the cold weather as much about riding, and he can't wait. He's excited for spring to get back out there and not just ride on his trainer. And I thought like, why is a better question than what is my motivation? So in terms of motivation and why, I was thinking of the fat bike ride that I did last week, where it was a group ride from Dirty River. And, you know, I'm at home, nice and warm, hanging out with my cat. And then, you know, it's only 14 degrees out when we left, 10 degrees out on the way back. It's been snowing all day. It was one of those things where there's a group that I haven't ridden with that much before. And I also met some new people on it. And there was a time where I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, it's 14 degrees, ton of snow. Do I really want to head out there in this weather? I was motivated, I guess, and my motivation was to see some friends and do a group ride and get out and have some fun after I'd been in the studio working for 2 days and not really out that much. Oh yeah, the rim strip is coming right out of here, so that's not a good sign. Probably messed with a delicate ecosystem that had been going on here for a long time. So I guess that was one of the things, and it's one of those where I am so glad that I did get out the door because, as I said, I ended up having a really good time. We had good beers, we had good food, went to a restaurant I'd never been to. I met a couple people on the ride I hadn't met before, and a couple people that I've only kind of met in passing, so I got to know a little better. So for me, that I've thought about that, and I'm like, that's my motivation to ride a lot, is that it's like, it really is my social time. I think I might just replace this rim strip with some electrical tape if I have enough. But yeah, it's my social time. So a lot of times I just want to get out and see my friends and hang out on the bike and chat and all that stuff. Just the fact of doing that ends up getting me a lot of miles, and on certain rides that I do, just, you know, a good workout and all that stuff on top of it. When it comes to summer, I don't really need a lot of motivation. I was talking about in my end of the year video that a lot of times this year, and with the long daylight hours in the summer, I would just be working in the studio. Me and Edmund would have dinner, and then I would just hop on my bike to be outside. I'd ride out to our inland lake here in Akron, and it would just be, you know, maybe it's 10 miles, maybe I'd turn it into 20, but it was just getting outside. One thing I don't talk a lot about, having the photography business can also be a little bit lonely in ways. I mean, I've made a lot of great friends through it, and I sometimes shoot events where I'm around a lot of people, but a lot of my days are so solo. I'm just here answering emails, doing invoicing, the business side of the gig, editing photos. I enjoy it. You know, I'm usually watching YouTube videos in the background I like, podcasts, or listening to music, whatever that may be, and I enjoy that stuff, but there's no doubt about it, it gets lonely. So even if it's just a solo ride, riding through downtown Akron, or, you know, I'm gonna see friends when I go out in this city. I'm gonna wave to people. I might stop over at Missing Falls where I'm friends with all the people who work there and the owners. I guess summer's also a different beast. There's no, for me, there's not really a need for like motivation. So that'd be more like the why do I do it? I do it to get out of this space for a while. I don't sit around also and watch a lot of TV in the evenings. I actually pretty much none. Like I mentioned, I can have YouTube or bike racing or whatever I want on in the background while I do my job, which is nice. But yeah, I don't like during like prime time or, you know, I don't have Netflix or anything. So the bike is kind of my entertainment, whether it's solo or with friends. So that was a pretty easy culprit to find. I don't know if we have focus here or not, but I'm wondering where that is. Is that a manufacturing defect or is that something else? Because it's not where the rim strip was bad and it's kind of on the side of the tire. I don't know. I'm going to take this into the shop with me tomorrow and ask them. If not, this is a fully patchable tube. I mean, it's brand new with a very easy to see where the hole is. So I've always bought rim strips, whether I do the cloth style, more vintagey ones or just the, on certain bikes, those cheap rubber ones that you just put around it. And I'm wondering, you know, a lot of people always just say you could use electrical tape. I've never done it. Is there a reason you shouldn't use electrical tape? Is it the fact that it gets sticky on there when you have to take it off? So for those of you who are pro electrical tape, let me know. Those of you who are anti-electrical tape, let me know why you wouldn't do it. But we're going to find out on this one. It sure seems to fit perfectly. Feel like you definitely want to be pulling it fairly tight, right? So yeah, back to what I was kind of talking about there with the motivation thing. I also do, you know, pay attention to my numbers. I use Strava. I put in the goal every year, and I do like to see those two diverging lines. You know, I mentioned I don't have a ton of motivation in January and February, and so I start like way behind, and then, you know, sometime wherever it hits in the summer where those lines finally catch back up or start to get close. And then this year, I thought I was going to get like my biggest year ever, and then the weather changed and I didn't ride that much, and I ended up 52 miles short of what I had put in my goal, which didn't matter to me. Like I was doing the Festive 500 in the end. I did a ton of miles at the end of the year. I don't chase miles. A lot of times, you know, I think about if I really wanted to hit that number in the summer sometimes, or when the good weather hits in the spring, I go out for a ride and then I want to sit on a patio and chill and enjoy a beer or talk to friends. And I'm like, yeah, that ride could have been twice as long if I wasn't just doing what I wanted to do. Or sometimes when I'm just out kind of sightseeing around, I'm like, oh yeah, that ride could have been way longer and I didn't need to stop to take pictures, but I'm not chasing miles for the sake of chasing miles. I more use that as a motivation sometimes at the end of the year, because that's when it's, you know, this year, especially like November and December, harder to ride. So maybe it'll be like, oh, I could try and chase these miles at the end and that'll, you know, get me out the door or something like that. But in general, I know my mileage. I'm not going to pretend like I don't know it. I see it on Strava. I pay attention to it. It's not like my number one motivating factor, but it exists there somewhere in the background sometimes. And you know, those challenges like the Festive 500 are just, I'm going to go around twice with this, by the way. It feels pretty thin compared to a rim strip on one pass. So I'll see what it feels like on two. I don't think it would need three. Again, let me know all the opinions on that down below. But yeah, I like a good challenge. I like doing some tough rides from time to time. So yeah, all my biking isn't just purely for fun, but the majority of it is. That's another reason I was mentioning that I love having a new trainer that is simple and just works, because I do want to get some exercise sometimes. And I used to run, I used to do other things, and I can't do those anymore. And so no matter what you think of whether it counts as real miles or not, it's another way for me to keep spinning my legs. Today I did stage 3 of the Tour de Zwift. I think it was probably the hardest indoor ride I've ever done. It was an Innsbruck stage where there was a few laps of a city circuit, then it climbed a 2,000 something foot mountain, like all towards the end, all between like 5, I think, and like 8% of climbing. So yeah, that was the toughest thing I've done indoors, and my legs right now absolutely feel it. So as I've said, I don't know how the miles actually relate to real outdoor miles. All I know is I get a hell of a workout when I ride the thing. We've just overlapped. Let's see how that goes. I grabbed scissors, like I can't rip electrical tape with my fingers. Well, let's kind of inspect the rim just one more time before I put my other tube in there, because I always basically have a set of tubes and then a set of backup tubes, you know. I do not want to be stranded out there in this kind of weather. And you know, a couple people mentioned patching on the road. Fine in the summer, like if that's what you want to do, but I'm not going to worry about patching on the side of the road when it's, you know, in the teens Fahrenheit. So I will say there are some times when I am feeling unmotivated, but almost every time I am and I get myself out the door, I'm glad I did. There's been very few times where I didn't feel like riding, or it's just hard, you know, you didn't want to get all this stuff together. You're like, what bike do I want to ride? Blah, 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 whatever you're letting get in your head. And then almost every time I get out in those situations, I am happy I did. But on times where I truly, really have time, but don't feel like riding, I do something else. You know? I'm not training for anything. Like I said, I pay attention to the mileage, but it's not like my #1 goal in life or anything like that. So yeah, that is really it. I just do something else. It's not my only hobby. You know, I love photography when I'm not doing professional photography. Should I line this up with the Gravdal logo or the 45 North logo? And where did my hole just go while I was thinking about that? Right there. Now the 45 North logo is brighter, so probably easier to find the valve. Whatever. I'm not intense about that. I know everybody else is, so I won't make you hate me right now. I'll line up the valve with the logo. But yeah, doing something else, like going for a walk, going for a hike. I don't do it as much. I'd rather ride my bike most of the times when I have free time and I want to go out. One of the things that it's a lot of times, it's just as a freelancer, it's always hard to decide what is your free time, you know? It's an interesting life, freelance life. There's always a YouTube video I can edit. Yeah, so yeah, just a little ramble, some stuff I've been thinking about. But as I'm getting ready to head out to Florida, so as you're watching this video, it should be the day that I get back from the Orange Blossom gravel event. A number of people have asked about meeting up. Me and Aaron really did not build in any time for that. This is kind of an in and out, unfortunately. You know, we have a little bit of free time, but you know, it's the day that our flight is getting in, so we're not going to make any plans about that. And then we have a rented car the next morning to go out to Orange Blossom. So anyone who said, you know, hey, we should meet up, that's the reason that's not going to happen. We're just not going to be there long enough. So I'm excited for it though. So one thing I'm going to do tomorrow, we're going to the bike shop, as I mentioned. I'm going to pick up bike bags. Dirty River rents bike bags. And I have never flown with my bike, neither has Aaron. So I'm going to try and film that process to, you know, if you're an expert, that video will be of no interest to you. But for anyone who hasn't flown for their bike, you're going to get to see what it looks like for a first timer. I'm going to see how much I could get filmed and just explain our experience and all that stuff. Yeah, you could ask any questions you have about how it went for us in that regard. And then obviously, I don't know, our first day, we're going to try and do a ride and go get dinner and maybe have a beer somewhere, and the next morning ride out for coffee, and then we'll take the car out to the event. So 2 or 3 videos out of this weekend, depending how it shakes out. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to bring that new drone, if you guys saw it, that Hover Air, and try that out on the gravel roads in Florida. I just realized I'm telling people I'm not going to have time to meet up in a video that's not going to be out till I'm already home. But at least if you're watching this, you'll know I wasn't just being a dick. B down there? Yeah, it feels like it is. What is that? The 35. This will be a nice little finishing touch. I already showed these 3D printed from my buddy Carl up there in Michigan, who I actually owe a DM to. So that's going to do it for this one. If you want to support the channel more, we have a little shop down below. Also consider the channel memberships. And by the way, channel members, I have not forgot about the year-end video I make every year. Just been busy, so it'll probably be closer to an early February year-end video. We will have to see if that is an interesting transition, going back to a 26-inch wheel mountain bike in the snow after riding a fat bike for the last few weeks in the snow. All right, catch you in the next one, guys. Peace.